This is a Tartan Zebra creativity workshop, and today we're going to be exploring digital art using an app on an iPad, and the app is called Autodesk Sketchbook, and it's a fab app to try out all sorts of different skills. So we're going to try out firstly just doodling with all the different pens and the tools on the left hand side when you created a new page. So pick a tool, play around with the size of the brush, the opacity of the brush, and start scribbling and see what you come up with. Pick another tool, play around with it, just see what you can produce. Try maybe a marker tool, the airbrush tool. All of these come in different sizes. There's some tabs on the left that you can increase or decrease the size of your mark and the opacity, so check those ones out as well. If you go into the top section, you can go into something called the library, and in the library there's all sorts of different things that you can choose, like the mark that I'm making there, which is almost like footprints or stipples. So really honestly just test these things out. So we're going to have another go, or maybe on a fresh sheet. Oh, here I'm testing out the blending tool, which is further down, which is literally like getting a wet brush and mixing up your mark making. So that is a really fun way of blending. And then the eraser tool there as well, just erasing out what you've done, which can be really good for negative mark making as well as tidying up your work. Okay, so yes, back into the library. So I'm setting up another layer there on the right hand side of the page, and in the library there's all sorts of exciting marks that you can make. So here's a kind of almost a fence or diagonal lines, crisscrossing, cross-hatching type mark, and the more pressure you apply, the darker it gets. Or you could try something that just builds up stars on your page. Each one of these is really worth having to play around with, so you know what effects are available to you. Obviously we're just working in black at the moment. On the colour picker tool, which is the dark circle at the bottom right, you can actually choose a different colour. I'm going to move that up to red and then start working in red. And it's as simple as that. So really, before you start using this app, just play around with what it can do, because there's a myriad of different things that you can do with it, and it's so much fun. You can see here I'm trying something out more like almost tentacles or tinsel at Christmas. Yeah, so much things to do, so many things to do. Right, another skill. Let's move on. So what we're going to now do is add text. So if you choose the T at the top of the menu bar and then you type in your word, I've just typed in hello. I've then gone to the colour picker and changed the colours. I've then gone to the blue icon where you can warp your lettering and change it into all sorts of dimensions. You can then flip around your lettering, upside down, back to front. I then also just positioned it differently on my page using the positioning tool, which is the 4 arrows going in different directions. And then using the paint bucket tool, I've used a different colour and filled in my letters in different colours. And you can play around with lettering in all sorts of different ways in this app. Okay, we're going to try something a bit more complex now. Using the shape picker, I am drawing a circle. And then using the bucket tool and the kind of the fill, which allows a radial fill, I've actually added a fill to make that circle look spherical with a white highlight and a dark shadow. We'll do that again now with a green circle and try and make this look like an apple this time, using the radial fill in the paint bucket tool. And then using my just a black airbrush tool, I'm just brushing on some dark shadow to look like the dip in the apple at the top, and then using a pen tool to add the stalk, and there you have a really lovely apple shape. So play around with those tools. They are the bucket tool where you use the radial fill. Now I'm doing a rectangle this time, same way, this time using a gradient fill, adding another layer, because on this layer, gradient fill again, I'm going to use the warp tool to actually push that to the side so it starts to build up a cube. And then on another layer above that, I'm adding another rectangle which I'm filling with a gradient with a bucket fill, and the warp tool to actually push that to the side to make something look really three-dimensional. If you just go to the straight line tool, you can build any shape. Now I am building a triangle here in the attempt to build a pyramid. And I've done that, but I've done something deliberately wrong, because I want to show you that when you go to the paint bucket tool and you fill that pyramid, it will actually fill the whole screen, and that is because I didn't close my shape. So if you use your pen to close the shape, you should now be able to fill that shape without a problem. So try out all these different tools and you can build up some really effective 3D forms. Okay, so 3D forms, what about more of a tonally shaded face? So I've selected an image from the internet, added the image using the image adder tool at the top, which looks like mountains with a plus sign, then added a draw layer on top. Now I'm picking my brush to use and I want something that looks quite soft. I've reduced the opacity of my image by clicking on the image and sliding the opacity down, and then clicking on the layer above. I'm using a soft mark to actually sort of brush it in the darker tones in this high contrast image. It will look a bit strange to start off with because I am literally just going for the darkest tones. And then as I build this up more, I'm going for a slightly lower opacity using the opacity changer on the right hand side of the tools. So there's a little slider on the right hand side of the tools, and I'm just building that up really, really slowly. You can see as I move in that I'm sort of choosing different tools now to draw in the eyebrows, and sort of more of a marker tool to actually, using the circle tool to draw in the iris, a marker tool to fill that in, and to start drawing much darker, more, I suppose, definite shapes for the eye and the shadows around the eye. Eyelashes, top and bottom. Then I'm going to build in the eyebrows again, so the hairs on the eyebrow. And then a softer marker, I suppose, with lower opacity to build in the tone around the nose to make it a bit more definite, readjusting as I go. And this is just how you build up slowly a tonal monotone portrait. Doing the lips in dark, then I'll add in a white by changing the colour to white. I use the blend tool to slightly blend it together, almost like with a wet brush. A darker marker, a more definite marker to add the detail on the lips. And you could play with this and add to it, add hair, add more detail as you go. The nostrils you can see I'm building. Not going to do the whole thing, you get the idea. Okay, another really fun aspect of this app is using almost like the Reflector tool, where you can draw in lots of sections. So I've chosen, I think, 8 sections there, maybe it's a few more, maybe it's 10. And as you draw in one, it repeats it in all the others. So choose these sections carefully. It's that top icon that looks like almost a reflected shape. And then, just like with the other experiments we've done, you can fill in your shapes as long as they're full. Closed shapes, you can use the paint bucket tool to fill them in. And slowly I'm filling in the flowers and the leaves in different colours, and then choosing other colours and other pens to actually start to build in other shapes. So I'm going to use a navy soon to build in a leaf shape. That's right, here we go, and colour those in using the paint bucket tool as well. And then behind that, I'm going to put a layer on the right hand side, add a layer using the plus tool on the right hand side to add a layer, slide that below this layer, and add in a sort of more textural mark to build sort of texture behind these. So you can see a sort of almost flowery texture behind that. And then I'm choosing another brush tool which will be a bit more spiky and spidery to add a finishing touch. And this really just builds up really lovely patterns. Another thing I'd like to show you on here is just by using geometric shapes. So I've employed the ruler tool here, both the flat ruler and the circular ruler. So I'm just carving up my page with lines and drawing around the circular ruler to get ovals and circles. really not thinking too hard about this, as you can see. Dividing up the page again. So you can use the ruler tool, or you can use the shapes tool and literally just place in shapes, circles, squares, ovals. So I'm really just building up my page here with lots of shapes. And then I am going to fill, just randomly fill. So you can build up a really nice geometrical pattern by filling in the blocks with different colours. You could do gradient fills if you wanted to. I'm just choosing flat colour, and as you can see, I'm slowly building it up to create an abstract pattern. And that's so easily done on this app, and just by playing around with the different tools, all on one layer, choosing different colours from the colour picker, and slowly and surely it gets filled up. I think I'm going to add some maybe some tangerine orange and some black as well to this to give it a finishing touch. So we're just adding in the last pieces here using the colour picker, and it should get finished. So I'm happy with that. Moving on. Now, a final different way of using the reflect tool is actually combining it with the shapes. So by drawing a square in one section, it repeats it all over, and you get these really nice geometric shapes building up very, very quickly. And once you've got an effect you're happy with, you can go to the paint bucket tool and start filling that in. And immediately you've got a page full of pattern, which could be very exciting. I'm just using black and white to add impact. So there you go, lots of different techniques using this app. It's just the beginning, but have a play around with it and see how you go.